This week on the Analog Circle podcast, eBay speaks out about customers being scammed when purchasing PlayStation 5s. We get some unfortunate news about a rumored character that will not be part of the character DLC pack for Mortal Kombat 11. CyberPunk 2077 will allow cross-gen saves. We get some patent information on the upcoming PlayStation VR 2, and we get a release date for Doom Eternal on the Nintendo Switch. All of these stories can be found here in episode 154 of the Analog Circle podcast. I am your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and I want to say welcome to the show. Welcome, everybody. Now, with that being said, you guys have probably already realized and recognized that this show is up late. Yes, it is. I'm actually recording this at 3:39 p.m. and I humbly apologize. I've had some things going on in the background, but don't nobody care about that. It's all good. After this week, I will be recording on Sundays and Wednesday, the listener feedback. I couldn't put that up because I am with Libsyn.com, and every month you are allotted a certain amount of megabytes per month that you can use, and I did not have enough megabytes to actually be able to record that episode or put up a bonus episode that I recorded with two guys that will remain nameless until you hear. Man, I ain't gonna do that. Shout out to Goose and shout out to Mike J. We had recorded an episode together as well, talking about the Xbox Series X, their first impressions of it, and that will be up later on this week because I'll have enough megabytes to be able to do it. So that's what's going on right now. And definitely apologize. But with that being said and getting that out the way, I would like to say if you, the listener that are listening right now, would want to be a part of the next upcoming feedback section, which will be recorded. I'm not even going to say it's going to be this Wednesday because I will not be home, but I know that next week everything will be on track, so I'll probably end up recording that later on sometime this week. But if you want to be a part of it, you can do it two different ways. Either you can call in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice, that's right, your voice be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Now, with that being said, just quickly what I've been into, because I'm itching to get into this gaming news. I think this is going to be another longer episode. I felt bad falling off track with getting my recording days together, so I added a couple of extra stories to try to make this a longer episode. Can't make it too long because I don't want to go over the allotted megabytes, but I think we'll be fine with the length of the show. But before we get into the gaming news, like I said, I have been into this week, I got back into Zelda on the Nintendo Switch. I started playing that for a little while. That game is really good. It's good. I've been having a little bit of trouble with getting around the world, kind of navigating a bit, but the game is really solid. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if it's a lot of fun because I'm still trying to figure out what the world is going on. But it's my first Zelda game. I haven't played any other Zelda game outside of this one. So this is my introduction into the Zelda universe. And it's been pretty good so far. I've enjoyed it. And once again, shout out to the person that gifted me that. I truly appreciate it. It was great to come back and be able to play that for a little bit. Still trying, like I said, trying to get used to it, trying to figure things out. But yeah, I had played that. And I think that was all I played this week. I know that over Black Friday, and I would love to know what you guys picked up during Black Friday, because I was pretty active. I was out there. Not so much game activity active, but I was out there in the stores, you know, getting a couple things, you know what I'm saying, for some really good prices. I actually really took advantage of Black Friday, and it was great to me. It was fantastic. I don't want to say what I bought, on here because I don't want certain people to know certain things that I got for them. So, it is what it is. But I want to know, what are some of the pickups that you guys got? Now, as far as the game side of things go, I only picked up one thing over Black Friday, and that was the Vanquished and Bayonetta double pack, where both of them were included with each other for $20. I had been looking to play Vanquish for some time, and finally seeing it available on the Xbox One for $20 during Black Friday, I had to pick it up. And just as a bonus, Bayonetta came with it too. And I've heard fantastic things about that game as well. So yeah, I'll have to get into that eventually. I'm really looking forward to trying to get in there and playing as soon as possible. But I haven't had a chance to pick up and play because I've been running all weekend. And I once again, humbly, guys, I want to apologize for, kind of messing up. I messed up on not recording on Wednesday. I thought I was going to have time. I didn't get back home until Thursday afternoon, and my day was shot. My whole weekend was pretty much over, which is why I'm recording today. So it was a great weekend though. I don't want you guys to think I was messed up. I had a fun time, just time got away, that's all. But with that being said, without further ado, we're already over 6 minutes into the show. Let's go ahead, man, so I don't waste any more of you guys' time, and let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. Let's get into the gaming news that went down this week. Let's go ahead and let's talk about Rockstar Games. Now, they have announced that you will be able to purchase Red Dead Online separately from the campaign for $5. Now, it will be available on Xbox Store, the PlayStation Store, Steam, and the Epic Games Store, and the Rockstar Game Launcher. Now, this deal will last until February 15th, 2021. Now, you will also have the option, if you want to actually upgrade to the single player campaign for an additional charge. Now, what that charge is, they did not say. But this really made me think about a couple of things. This is a very interesting, not tactic, but it's an interesting buyer's kind of situation. Actually telling a buyer, hey, look, if you know that you're not interested in the single player, you are strictly interested in the online part or portion of the game, we're going to give you an option to do just that. Get the online portion, and if you decide at a later time that you want to pick up the single player portion of the experience, then you can do that whenever you get ready. This is, $5. I understand that Red Dead is 2 years old at this point. Still $5. Now, who knows what it's going to go up to after February 15th, 2021. But to just get into the world, knowing that that's what you want to do, that's all you want to do is play the online portion, I think this is phenomenal. And it made me start to wonder, could this be a situation that maybe Activision might do with Call of Duty? Some of these other games that they kind of have the online element to them and people enjoy that online element. What if 2K? Rockstar and 2K games are under the same umbrella. What could stop them from doing that with NBA 2K for people that are just interested in the my player aspect of the game versus actually playing a season? Having people to get into the online part of the game for a cheaper price point, and that's where they're going to spend their money. That's a cash register. You think about it. If you're doing anything that's online only, you are going to pay. Whether you're paying for upgrades, whether you're trying to get points and not trying to earn them or whatever, you're just trying to get a bit of a head start. That VC is expensive, and Red Dead Redemption getting different guns or whatever the world is going on in there. It could make for a big payday and get people in for a much cheaper price, especially now the games are $70. If you say, look, you can get in and get the online portion of the game, I'm talking about for this current generation for, let's say, $35 as opposed to $70, I think that could go over pretty well with a lot of people who aren't interested, once again, in the campaign, but they just want to live online. That's where they want their experience to be. So we'll see if this actually takes off and possibly makes other publishers and developers want to follow suit as well. But let's go ahead and let's talk about PlayStation, because it's being reported that owners of the PlayStation 5 are taking advantage of a loophole. Now, this is actually being reported from Android Central. Got to give them their credit. But they're doing this by selling access to their accounts. Now, users would pay the seller, who would then use the buyer's account info to log in on their PlayStation 5 and redeem the PlayStation Plus collection, which in turn would allow users to play the collection for free on the PlayStation 4. Now, of course, Sony caught on to this, and as a result, Sony is banning users that are involved. Now, PlayStation 4 owners are being banned for up to 2 months, which, I mean, depending on how active you are online, that could be a pretty big stint, but it's for up to 2 months. So maybe it could be 30 days, 10 days, 90 days, I don't know. But for PlayStation 5 owners, you will be banned for, you'll be banned indefinitely from your PSN account. So PlayStation 5 owners are getting hit the hardest. Indefinitely. You might not ever be able to access your account again. And I guess that makes sense, because if you're the PlayStation 5 owner, you are actually having this PlayStation Plus collection get leaked basically to the PlayStation 4 owners. So if any of you guys have started doing this, you found a loophole, just know that you could be putting your account, your PSN account, in danger by not ever being able to access it ever again. So, it's nothing much more to talk about that. To talk about dealing with this, let's go ahead and get into the next story. Now, Phil Spencer had a lot to say this week, but, oh man, boy, did he. But let's start with what he thinks about the DualSense controller. He said, and I quote, "I applaud what they did with the controller. I think for all of us in the industry, we should learn from each other and the innovation that we all push on, whether it's distribution of business models like Game Pass or controller tech, or the Wii back in the day, which clearly had an impact on us when we went off and did Connect and Sony did the Move." End of quote. Now, he continued in this Verge interview and said, quote again, "I think all of that innovation is something that we should all be looking at and learn and growing and saying, okay, what's really going to break out and become a common part of a platform that developers and players are going to look for? Or what is more vertical around a specific scenario on a specific piece of hardware? We're trying to be eyes open on that." End of quote. So once again, Phil Spencer, nice guy Spencer, he is, applauding Sony, and that's cool. It's nothing wrong with that. Seeing what your competitor is doing and saying, you know what, that's pretty cool. I like it. That's dope. And actually taking mental notes saying, you know what, maybe, because the way I read this, Phil Spencer was saying that, hey, we should learn from each other and, we can innovate together. I mean, I'm not for all that kumbaya stuff, but, when somebody, does do something that's great, then it's like, you know what, we can all benefit from this as an industry and everybody can win in the end. So I'm hoping that with Phil Spencer being this impressed with the controller, really giving Sony their props and respect on what they've done, that if this controller does make enough noise, that I'm hoping that Phil Spencer will also go back to the drawing board and do the same for the Xbox's controller. I think he had said also, it just depends on if it becomes mainstream. I mean, it's kind of like him in the VR situation. VR, he didn't think it was, mainstream enough, so he wasn't really ready to pull the trigger on it. But yet, despite that, Sony is the leader when it comes to the VR space, because more users are on. I'm not going to say more users are on the, it's obvious. If they're the market leader, then yeah, there's more people on their VR versus PC, and they were able to make it cheaper. So I think Microsoft, they kind of missed the boat on that one a little bit. Especially when they could have had somebody from a third party do it and actually made it compatible with the Xbox console. I mean, your fan base wanted it. Phil saying he doesn't want it. I mean, sometimes, Phil, listen, man, you got to listen to your fan base. Your fan base are the guys that are feeding you, that are lining your pockets so that you can feed your family. I would definitely say always listen to the consumer. Not all the time. Sometimes the consumer, the gamers be bugging. Sometimes they be just far left. But if it is something that is doable and it is enough of a demand for it, then I think you should go up against your competitor and do the same thing. Don't give anybody a reason to want to go over to the other side because they have a feature that you don't have. That's the one thing that I have not been a fan of when it comes to Microsoft, to the Xbox brand. Here it is, Sony, they continue to keep exclusives, they continue to get exclusives, and you have Microsoft, they're just throwing it all over the place. My gosh. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next story. Before we move on, really, I hope Phil, he does at least consider, if this thing does take off with the DualSense, making the same thing on the Xbox controller. Because once again, here it is. They have VR. Now they have the DualSense controller. It could really start being one-sided. That's all. Just keep the options open, Phil. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the next story. Let's talk about CyberPunk 2077, because I didn't know this, but the game will allow you to cross-gen save. So this is how it works. On the Xbox One or Xbox Series X or S, if you're on that, you just sign in and your data is automatically synced and downloaded via the cloud. Now, you won't need to manually transfer anything unless you're offline. And if that is the case, you can directly connect your old console to your Series X or your S and transfer the data that way. That is definitely plug and play. Now, for PlayStation, it's still not a bad process, but it's not quite as clear cut. On PlayStation 4 or 5, you can upload the save file to PlayStation Plus Cloud, directly transfer them via a USB stick, or use an external USB drive. Now, this article, I got this from a Tweak Town. So yeah, it just seems like with the Xbox, it basically goes to the cloud, it transfers over, and boop, you're in there, you're done. It's all over. But PlayStation, you got to go through that transfer of the USB stick and all of that stuff, or using an external drive. Once again, not a make or break situation, not that hard. It's just Microsoft really made this, or is making this, very convenient for you to be able to get your saves over from one platform to the other, from the last gen consoles to the current gen consoles. And that's awesome. And I think this is great too, because for players like myself who don't have a PlayStation 5 and don't have a Series X, I would hate to have all of that progress being made on the Series X. Now, y'all know I just capped a little bit. I just lied to y'all. Here I am having a hard time playing Judgment. Got 30 hours in that and I'm struggling. What the heck am I going to do with CyberPunk 2077 when one of those doggone testers users already had 175 hours into the game and didn't even beat it yet. Yeah, I definitely lied on that one, brother. Maybe after I get that 1 hour into the game, after I play for 1, maybe 2 hours, I'm talking about 2 strong, solid hours. If I ever get, well, I am going to get, hopefully they come in stock soon, but when I get either the PlayStation 5, because I definitely intend on getting that first, especially with that controller. I don't know. I'm sweating bullets on that. I don't know which version I'm going to get yet, man, because if CyberPunk takes advantage of that PS5 DualSense, that could be a problem, brothers. But I definitely love the way that the Xbox controller feels in my hands. And since I haven't touched that PlayStation 5 controller, who knows, that thing might be a dream in the hand, man. So adding, if the feel is right on the PlayStation controller and the DualSense is kicking in, man, good gosh, I might be getting it on the 5. I don't know yet. But what I do enjoy about this is that no matter how far you get, whether you're on a PS4 or Xbox One, you'll be able to take that same progress over to your game on the current generation consoles. I want to say next gen so bad. But the current gen console. So that's awesome. Shout out to doggone CD Projekt Red. Those guys are great, man. Can't wait to see this game come out. I'm sure it's going to do amazingly well. And I'm just very excited to see what the game is about. Man, graphically, it looks great. The ray tracing, all of that stuff looks awesome. But let's go ahead and get into the next story. So this is for my Mortal Kombat 11 fans. Shout out to you, Vaughn. What's going on, good brother? Now, so a while ago, a leak came out that the Evil Dead character Ash Williams would be one of the DLC characters in the game, but still hasn't been added when the other characters that leaked have been released. So fans want to know what's going on. Well, a producer on the game whose name is, Shao John, instead I guess Shao Khan, Shao John, when asked by a fan about the situation, Shao linked him to a MK YouTuber, Dynasty, I guess, that's the YouTuber's name, Dynasty, which is about Bruce Campbell, who is the actor behind the character. Now, who said, quote, this gives a lot of clarity on the situation. Mortal Kombat 11, the jury is still out because, look, the truth is very simple. Characters are kinda owned by companies, including Ash. So sometimes those companies aren't allowed to loan characters between franchises because other companies go, whoa! Then you have to make a deal if you're going to. It's like loaning out Humphrey Bogart. Man, you can tell this brother from the old school Humphrey Bogart. God, dog. To another studio, you know? The studios make a deal. It gets weird sometimes. So it might not happen only because of legal crap. End of quote. So once again, you know, the star, the person that played the character of Ash, he's come out and said that basically, you know, it's going to, if it doesn't happen, it's going to be because of legal reasons. And I can only imagine. I'm not a Mortal Kombat. Listen, I'm not a fan, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of what Mortal Kombat did. Mortal Kombat single-handedly made us have the rating system that we have for M-rated games. The impact that Mortal Kombat had on the industry is legendary. We had never seen anything like this on a main scale or main stage, as it were, to actually change the landscape of gaming. So, I'm a fan of what Mortal Kombat has done, but I have not played Mortal Kombat in years, so I don't want to, you know, misconstrue what I'm about to say here. But, you know, it just seems like basically it's tied up in the legal issues of what's going on with the character, and sometimes, you know, companies don't play nice. It kind of reminds me of the Who Framed Roger Rabbit back in the day where you had WB and you had Disney, and they had to have the same amount of screen time. If you did 5 seconds on Mickey, you had to do 5 seconds on Bugs Bunny. It was just a cluster of a mess. So I guess instead of them having to deal with that, with this situation with the Ash character, they are just not going to have it happen. So, I mean, it would be unfortunate. I know a lot of people were looking forward to it, looking at some of the tweets and the excitement that people had for the character. But if it doesn't happen, which it definitely doesn't, because most of these characters that were leaked have been released already. I mean, Rambo came out, like 2 weeks ago? I mean, so if Ash hasn't come out by now, it's definitely a good chance it's not going to happen. Very, very unfortunate. But let's go ahead into some quick news. Now, Universal Studios Japan announced today which is November 30th, that the Super Nintendo World area will be open to the public on February 4th, 2021. I'm going to tell you, man, I remember talking about this years ago. And they were supposed to have the park open for the Summer Olympics, I believe. It was happening over in Japan. If I'm not mistaken, might be a little off on that, but I thought it was happening over there. Olympic Games 2020, the park was supposed to be open, but because of COVID-19 happening, they had to postpone it until February 4th, 2021. And the thing about this park, I've been looking at the pictures. Man, this thing looks amazing. I really hope that they will bring this over to the Universal doggone studios here in the States, over in Florida and in California. I think they have one. This thing looks remarkable. I mean, it looks just like Mario. I mean, you see the Bowser statue when you walk in. They got this ride called the Mario Kart where it's mixing AR into the ride. I mean, this thing looks really good. So I hope that it does so well over in Japan that they have to bring it over here to the States, because I gotta tell you, that would be something. That would be a trip worth taking. I ain't going to Japan. I ain't going that far. I'd be capping. I'd be lying to y'all if I say I'm going to travel 10,000 miles over to Japan just to spend a day in a park. You gotta be kidding me. But if they bring it stateside, oh man, I would definitely take the trip for something like that. That would be a ton of fun. And hopefully next year, no, it doesn't really look like it. It's still looking like it's going to be some corona hanging around. But hopefully next year, things just in general will be a lot better than they were this year. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and move into the next story. Now, let's talk about the PlayStation VR. So, a recently published patent may have given us a better inside look at what Sony is cooking up for the PlayStation VR 2. Now, it was a patent filed back in mid-2016 by Sony Interactive Entertainment entitled Pressure Sensing to identify fitness and comfort of virtual headset. End of quote. And it was granted by the USPTO on November 24th, 2020. So this thing just got the green light. Now, the patent is intended to increase the wearing comfort of VR/AR headsets. Now, the patent also talks about various sensors. This is the dope part. Various sensors being built into the VR headset, which will determine if the headset is being worn properly. Pressure sensors, motion sensors, or stretch sensors can be used for this. Now, in addition to this, the documents also mention, now this is, man, I'm really hoping this really happens, but it mentioned the integration of LED and haptic feedback generators that are going to be on the VR unit. Now, the way they were talking about the LED lights working, they were talking like if it was off, it would, if it wasn't really adjusted onto your head properly, maybe a red box or something like that would flash to let you know that it's not properly on. It just really seems like they are just refining what they've already put out there, making it a much tighter, much better design, so that it can really pick up on the motions and the tracking and really make it more of a one-to-one experience. And I understand that PlayStation VR right now is already pretty close to one-to-one. It's a great headset, especially for the money. But it just seems like with this PSVR 2, they're taking it to that next level, refining it and just kind of tying up all of the loose ends that might have fell a little short with the first PSVR. And just to top this off, like I had mentioned, the integration of haptic feedback generators into this thing as well. I mean, good grief, I don't know how that's going to work. I can't really wrap my mind around how, what technology it would be. Like, would it feel like a little heavier on one side? I mean, I don't know if like your character's tired and I don't know, it makes your head feel a little more heavy. I mean, who the heck knows? I know that we can get to a certain level where it's too much interactivity is just not good, because that Zelda on the Wii, man, a lot of brothers said, my arm is sore and I can't swing the sword no more. This ain't fun for me. I know that's happened, and I can only imagine that if somebody has the VR headset and through these, I don't know how that would happen through haptic feedback. I don't know how it would make the headset heavier. That's why I think I'm putting a little too much on this. But just any extra features to make a game feel more interactive. I mean, I don't know what it could do. I mean, I guess if you get headshot in the game, will it kind of make like a hard pulsing feeling on the top of your head? I don't know, but I tell you, I am interested to know what the world is going to happen, because I still have not had my hands on this DualSense controller, that PlayStation 5 controller, but everybody says Astrobot did the thing. It made you feel and understand what the controller could do, what its potential was, or is, I should say. And then you have the same people, Astrobot, once again, a great game synonymous with the PlayStation VR. I'm imagining if these guys are putting this haptic feedback, these generators, onto this VR headset, this PSVR 2, that the Astrobot team will probably be leading the charge to give us a full understanding of what the PSVR 2 will be able to do to bring you more into the game. And then the controller on top of it, if they switch up the Move controllers, which they gotta do at this point. The Move controllers are way out of date, brother. So they gotta switch that up. And I'm just imagining what the world are they gonna do to switch up the controllers to make that haptic feedback feel a certain way to go along with the PSVR 2. It's just a very interesting and just something I'm looking forward to seeing how Sony is going to pull it off. Very interesting times, and good times, I might add. Let's go ahead and let's get into, one of my favorite studios. Gotta talk about these guys. If you guys know me, y'all know that one of my favorite studios is People Can Fly. Let's talk about them. So we know that Outriders is on the way next year, but People Can Fly CEO Sebastian, man, I can never get this good brother's name right. His name is spelled Wojcie. Wojciechowski. Always can get the last part right, because the last part of his name is Chowski. So I'm going to just call him Mr. Sebastian Chowski. No disrespect to you for saying that, shortening your name. I just can't get that first part right. But anyway, moving into the story, he revealed that the studio is, quote, currently working on 2 new AAA games, end of quote. Now, he also added that they're being made with major publishers. Now, the first is Square Enix. That's also that's the studio, I believe, not the studio, but the publisher that's going to be behind Outriders. So they're actually doing a second game with Square Enix. But the second new game that they're working on, this is interesting because that publisher is, where is it? It is Take-Two Interactive that they're working with they're working with them on the second game. So the Game Rant article continues to say, the only other thing Sebastian reveals about these projects are their code names. Now, for the projects, their code names are Gemini and Dagger. Oh, and he did mention one more thing, though. He did say that both projects will be out by 2024. Now, you guys know where I'm going with this. God dog, man. Shout out to Daddy. Let me dream. Man, let me dream over here for a minute. Out of the two games, Square Enix is probably the one that they could get away with it with. I don't know if Take-Two Interactive would let them do it. I wish they would. Hopefully they will. But people can fly for the sake of me. For me. And millions of other people. I'm going to say millions because I couldn't be the only guy on the planet that thought Bulletstorm was amazing. Please, people can fly. Sebastian, if you're listening to this, please be in development of a brand new Bulletstorm. You got two other games that you guys are working on. I think a second Bulletstorm would be phenomenal. Nobody has done those mechanics in a game with the whip, the leashing the person, the enemy towards you and killing them with skill and having that boot them in the air. I mean, it was just such a fun and original concept. That is something we could use right now. Well, I don't know if we could, but I sure could. I could use that. So I am really hoping that one of these two games is a Bulletstorm sequel. Will it happen? I know one of the leads, I believe it might have been Sebastian. He had said that they didn't have any plans on it, but I'm hoping that he was lying. I'm hoping. I really am. Because I think it could be great. I think it could be awesome. And I'm hoping. Once again, I'm just hoping. That's all I got to say, man. I am very interested in what the world could they be working on with Take-Two Interactive. I mean, I doggone sure know they ain't doing no GTA. I mean, nothing like that. I don't know. Something original. What could that be? Very interesting. Now, I do want to add, though, they did say that they weren't 100% sure if it was Take-Two, the company, or their offshoot indie sector. So it might be something for the indie side of Take-Two. The only other thing I know about Take-Two is they just picked up Codemasters not that long ago for the Dirt. I believe Codemasters is behind the Dirt franchise. So yeah, it should be interesting though, but please, come on, people can fly. Give me the sequel that I've been asking for years. 2024, both of these projects will be out. And I'm looking forward to it. Either way, I'm a fan of those guys. I'm definitely picking up Outriders. And, I'm just wishing them the best on these two new projects. Let's go ahead and, you know what? Speaking of Square Enix, hold on. Marvel's Avengers. We gotta talk about this. Marvel's Avengers has not recouped its development cost yet. Now, Square Enix president Yusuke Matsuda had said the sales were, quote, lower than expected, end of quote. So between development and marketing costs, the game has created a operating loss of around $67 million. God, dog. How long long has Avengers been out? Since what, September? I believe it was September. I don't think it was October. I'm just going to stick with September. If I'm wrong, you guys tell me. But golly, in 3 months, you're still in the hole. $67 million. This is why I can understand, man, how the world can you have the Avengers? You know what? People must have really voted with their wallet with this one. They really must have went out there and said, I am not buying this game because Spider-Man is an exclusive on the PlayStation 4. Because this game, and I understand that it was an online section to the game, there was more so the focus versus a story-driven campaign narrative. So that could have definitely hurt it too. And I mean, I heard the campaign was so-so, wasn't that great, but I would have thought that a game like the Avengers, how can you lose? Especially in the climate that we are in. Superhero movies are amazing nowadays. People love the Avengers. I mean, I would say they're all-time high in popularity because they've crossed over into, just the pop sphere, I guess, as it were. It's no longer just reading the comic books back in the 90s talking about the Infinity War. Well, reading about it in the comic books and it being talked about, with a section of guys that were into it. I loved comic books back in the 90s, but those 80s movies, I mean, maybe outside of Superman, they were pretty bad, brother. They were not hitting the way they are now. So, golly, this is just unfortunate to see that a game like the Avengers, still $67 million in the hole. And they actually put the game on sale for half off. So hopefully that'll help with some of the recoup costs. But this definitely makes me understand why some studios are real hesitant to make something new, even though the Avengers should have been a short thing. But even with that being said, $67 million. Do you guys think they're going to do it? Do you think they're going to be able to make up the cost? That is a lot of money. Now, this is the thing that they did say, the developers. Who was behind that? Was it, forgetting their names. Golly, they did the Tomb Raider games as well. Anyway, I'm not going to sit up here and keep on trying to remember the name because the more I try to remember it, the less I'm going to be able to remember it. But the studio behind them, Crystal Dynamics. See that? When I relax, this happens. Crystal Dynamics. They did say that the game will still be supported through new maps, missions, skins, and heroes. And just the fact that this game will be able to be upgraded to the next, the current gen consoles, that may give it a bit of a resurgence. Maybe people will be able to jump on it and play it. The performance might be better. The frames might be better. Load times are of course going to be better. Resolution, it might be able to help bump the sales up a little bit, but 67 million, that's a tall order to fill. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the next story. Now, this is a quick news story. Doom Eternal. It will be released on December 8th on the Nintendo Switch. Now, the game is being developed by Panic Button, who is responsible for Doom 2016 being ported over to the Switch. The game will, now this was interesting. The game is only going to be a digital only release, so you can't even get a physical copy of the game, but it's going to take up, as far as storage goes, this is pretty big for a Switch game, I would say. 18.8 gigabytes of storage. Now, I haven't played my Switch like a ton, but I would say that has to be on a bit of the higher side. I don't know if I've ever seen a game, not ever, but me personally, I haven't seen a game quite that big on the Switch. Somebody let me know. Maybe something is bigger. Zelda might have even been bigger. Who knows? But yeah, that's about it for that. I wonder how this game is going to turn out, because people actually said that Doom 2016 came out for it to be on the Switch it came out pretty good. They were just shocked that it actually was able to be ported to the Switch to begin with. So will it be a situation where Doom Eternal, it actually, for what it is and what the Switch is able to do, it'll actually be a W for the Switch having a game this graphically intense be ported over to the console. I tell you, these guys that do these ports, they're wizards. I mean, who the world? I would have put money that The Witcher 3, it was no way possible that the game could have been ported onto the Switch to be played, but yet it is there. It lives there right now. Incredible. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's move into, let's talk about eBay. Yeah, let's talk about them because they have become the home of overpriced PlayStation 5s and people getting robbed out of their money from scammers posting pics of the PlayStation 5 and people getting empty PlayStation 5 boxes mailed to their house. So how does eBay feel about this? Well, eBay said, and I quote, this is a spokesperson, they said, we condemn these opportunistic sellers who are attempting to mislead other users. We are in the process of removing all listings for photos of PlayStation 5s from our marketplace and will be taking appropriate action against the sellers. Buyers who receive an item which is not as described are entitled to a refund via our eBay money back guarantee, provided they completed the transaction on the eBay platform. End of quote. Now, as I read further into the GameSpot article, they also mentioned that a lot of these fake listings, man, this is just sickening. This really boils my blood, man, because they were saying that when they were advertising these PlayStation 5s, they were putting in fine print that the buyer would receive only a photo of the PlayStation 5. And that right there, listen, man, if you're gonna already inflate the price of the oh man, whoa, almost slipped up, of the frickin' product, man, you can at least have the decency to put the frickin' product in the box so that the person can get what they're already being robbed for anyway. Here it is. These guys are selling just the console. No games. You don't even know if it's a warranty on it for $2,500, $3,000, $1,700. It's like, God, dog. Not only are you going to rob the person, but you're going to rob the person by giving them a photo of the freaking PlayStation 5. I have never been against somebody coming up off of a product. We live in a capitalistic society. I'm never against somebody getting their bag. I understand that, not everybody would agree with that, but if it's in reason, I mean, God dog, I'm not paying $1,500 for a PS5. I wouldn't even pay $800 for a PS5. I'm not going to do it just off a GP. I'm paying you the MSRP. That's all I'm giving you. But God, dog, some of these guys, they're just taking it way too far. And I hope, what I really hope? I hope that these guys, they just came out with a report that said that one place, they got like 13,000 of these PlayStation 5s, and they're sitting on them. I hope that the merchandise doesn't move an inch. And people can say, oh, man, come on, Kiaun, they just trying to get their bag. I understand, get your money, man. But God, dog, do you have to be, it gets to a point where some of it becomes egregious. I mean, that's just highway robbery. If you're going to get it for $500, I got no problem. Look, do what you do. I mean, who the heck am I? And I don't nobody know me. But if you're going to get your money, God, dog, at least have a bit of an ethical code, man. If you're going to get extra money, get an extra $200 or $300. If you're going to do that, I mean, God, dog, These guys trying to make pay days. $2,500, man. I hope they get stuck with it. I hope they can't move the shipment. I hope that people realize that forget those mother lovers. Wait for it to come to the store, pick it up, and get it for the regular price. That way you can get a warranty on it, and you ain't got to worry about getting it from somebody else who didn't put a warranty on it, where they're just trying to rob you. I despise that. It's despicable to just rob people like that, putting a freaking photo in a box, talking about it's in the fine print. Man, somebody see you, they need to hit you with a bag of nickels around your doggone face, man. It makes me sick. Anyway, let's go ahead, man. And God dog it, eBay, please do right by these people. Give them their freaking money back. Because, man, it's not their fault. Who the world's looking at fine print? I understand somebody might say, well, hey, they should have looked at it. Nah, frick that. You advertising the PS5. They seeing that they paying extra for the doggone thing. Give them what they paid for. That's all. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. God darn. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's just get into the next news story. Shoot, man. Up next. Let's talk about Bungie, because God dog, man, y'all don't understand, man. Y'all just don't understand. Get your money. You know, God dog, make a couple extra $100. But man, anyway, frick it. Let's go ahead and let's talk about Bungie, because it appears that they have been working on several games over the last 3 years. Now, it was a interview that CEO Pete Parsons did with Metro. Now, he said he didn't think much would. Is this a quote? No, it's not a quote. But he said he didn't think much would come from these. Now, he said, now this is a quote, incubations, and said that, end of quote, and said that his team, quote, expected a decently high failure rate, end of quote. Now, a number of them have turned out to be really, quote, really amazing. Man, that last story got me all bad. I mean, calm down, man. God, dog. I just hate to see people get ripped off, man. Shoot. Anyway, we talking about Bungie right now. He said that they have turned out to be, quote, really amazing. Now, they are also adding talent at, quote, a faster rate. Man, listen, I'm not going through all of this. Basically, these guys over at Bungie, they were working on 3 projects. They weren't fully finished projects, but they were like pitched ideas. And the CEO was like, you know, we kind of figured that they weren't going to really go anywhere, but it looks like the projects that they're working on are actually turning out to be better than they were expecting. So they could possibly see the light of day. Now, as far as what the projects are that Bungie is working on, Parsons said, and I quote, "I wish I could say more, but I think you will be pretty excited." End of quote. So this is fantastic. I didn't think Bungie was working on anything outside of doggone Destiny, but to hear that they were working on 3 different projects, God dog, somebody tell Microsoft that this can be done. One team working on 3 different projects. Well, okay, not 3, several games. All right, let me kind of clear that up. But yeah, very, very interesting. They've been working on it for the last 3 years. That's where I got the 3 from. But yeah, so hopefully some of these will come to fruition. And I know Microsoft, they're working on a couple of projects, quite a bit. Their teams are very busy. But it's just a little jab at Microsoft. Golly. Love them, though. I do. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the next story. So, God dog, speaking of Microsoft. So, Microsoft, shucks, has decided to address the elephant in the room concerning the PlayStation 5 running games better than the Series X and S by saying, and I quote, "We are aware of performance issues in a handful of optimized titles on Xbox Series X and S, and are actively working with our partners to identify and resolve the issues to ensure an optimal experience. And I like the way the spokesperson came out and said a handful. Let's not get crazy. It's a handful of games. I feel you, brother, man. I love the PR. God dog, that's what you get paid for. Now, he continues on and says, as we begin a new console generation, our partners are just now scratching the surface of what next-gen consoles can do, and minor bug fixes are expected as they learn how to take full advantage of our new platform. We are eager to continue working with developers to further explore the capacity, I messed that all up, capability of Xbox Series X/S in the future. End of quote. So these guys are asking questions. Basically, Microsoft wants to know, how the heck is this possible? Wait a minute, something has to be amiss. How are we performing worse than the less powerful console? And you know what? I respect Microsoft for coming out here and talking about this. They could have simply said nothing at all. But they came out and said, look, let's address it. We understand it. We hear you guys talking. We hear the chit chatter. Yeah, PlayStation 5, they're performing better. But it's early days. Optimization is still happening, and we're working on it. I respect it. Instead of just sitting idly by and not saying anything, they came out and they addressed it. I respect it. So, once again, it is early days, bug fixes, certain things are happening. It's already a known fact that Sony, they got their development kits out earlier than Microsoft, because Microsoft was waiting for RDNA 2. Shout out to UAB, my man, for putting me down with that. RDNA 2, they were waiting on it, and that's why their development kits came out a little later. So yeah, even, you know what though? It's crazy, because did you guys see the comparison video with Watch Dogs Legion, when they were showing the reflections of the car in the window, and people were upset saying that Ubisoft, this is just crazy. I know I give Microsoft a hard time, because they earned that. They earned it. When they come out with some dope games at a regular basis, some AAAs that are amazing, I leave them alone. Don't get me wrong, Phil Spencer, he's still the assassin, because he did that doggone Bethesda deal. Well, it's still in the works, but he got it. It's to the table, and they talking about it. But anyway, outside of that, I give them a hard time, but golly, when this happened, you had people talking about the Ubisoft foil. Did they foil the PlayStation 5 version to make the Xbox Series X version look better? God dog it. I never heard one time did somebody foiled something on, well, I don't know. Hold on, wait a minute. Nah, because the PlayStation cats was talking, the Xbox guys were talking about tools, brother. They were trying to go to Lowe's and whatnot to get some tools to help the doggone Xbox Series X perform better. So, this happens on both sides of the spectrum, man. It's like one side doesn't like the results that they're getting on their side, and then it's an excuse, and they're saying, oh man, they did this to sabotage the PlayStation 5. Then you hear about the Xbox coming up short, and it's tool based. Oh man, the tool's a screwdriver ain't working right. What the world is going on? Anyway, it's good that Microsoft came out, they cleared the air. They said they're going to get with their partners. They're going to figure out what the heck is going on. What's going on with it being the same or better experience on their console, ensuring an optimal experience. That's what the spokesperson said. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on this story and see what happens. later on down the road, because it is early days. This is still a fresh generation. We aren't even 3 weeks in. I mean, good grief, it's still just starting out. So give the guys time, give the development team some time, and let's see what happens. But every time Xbox gets knocked out the box, every time they get outperformed, I mean, I say bring it up. I mean, that's a W. Sony is punching above their weight class, as it were. Isn't that what whatchamacallit said over on Ledbetter, over on Digital Foundry? It's punching above its weight class. Yeah, so that should be called out. But anyway, we're moving on into the last story. We got to circle back around. Since we were just talking about Xbox, we got to talk about Assassin Phil. God damn. Phil Spencer, man, this brother, I'm going to tell you, man, this guy seems like such a wholesome guy, man. He just seems like, good grief. You can kick it with him at a bar, grab a beer. He might have a Hawaiian punch or something. He don't even seem like a drinker, but he just seems like such a cool guy. Just laid back. Genuinely, I mean that. But he came out this week and he talked about toxic brand loyalty. He finds it to be distasteful and despises the idea that companies like Microsoft, quote, have to see others fail, end of quote, in order to achieve their goals. He said, quote, that tribalism in the industry, if there was anything that would ever drive me out of the industry, it's actually that. Spencer says, and this is coming from the Verge interview that he did, and this is the final story of the week. He says, when a team releases something into the market for the world to tear it apart on the internet, it's just such a brave thing for a team to do. I'm never going to vote against any creative team or any product team to do poorly because I have a competitive product. It's not in me. I don't actually think it helps us in the long run in the industry. End of quote. So this is the thing, man. Phil, God dog, man. He also said, I want to read one more quote to you guys about what Phil said. He said as well that, this is another quote. He was saying that Sony and Nintendo, once again, isn't the competition. He said, quote, we're in the entertainment business. The biggest competitor we have is apathy over the products and services, games that we build. End of quote. So, I mean, I understand the apathy part. I get it. If you're releasing a console or a game that nobody cares about and, it doesn't do well in the marketplace, then yeah, that is a problem. That is definitely a competitor, as it were. Us, the consumer, we are the biggest competitor for Microsoft. I mean, in this entertainment business. But you can't not say that Sony and Nintendo aren't, because if people are going to their products and they don't have apathy towards their products, they're excited. They're selling fives of millions or millions upon millions of games and hardware. You can't say that they aren't competition, because this is the thing. Phil Spencer has said this, and I understand. He's talking about, having others fail to see others get to the bigger goal. I'm not a fan of that either. I don't want to see any of these companies fail. I never want Microsoft to leave the gaming business. I darn sure don't want Sony and Nintendo to leave, because we need them. As a whole in the industry, I don't care if you don't like Xbox, and you'll never buy an Xbox ever. It's just never going to happen. You should want them to stay in the industry, because even though right now they aren't maybe swinging as hard as they could, at the competition, you do need them around for things like Game Pass. I mean, now you have Sony having to, combat that. Jim Ryan actually saying they have an answer, but he's not going to talk about it right now. Now, whether or not they really do have an answer. I don't know. Lion Ryan. I don't know. It might not happen. But at least they're pushing that envelope that they're going to have to look into that eventually, especially if it does become a bigger thing. So you want competition, but this is the thing. I don't see Jim Ryan coming out there or Bowser over on the Nintendo side talking about they don't like this toxicity. They can't stand it. If it's one thing that'll make me leave the industry, it's this. Nah, man, those jokers are winning. They winning. What do they care? That's the thing. If Microsoft was winning, if they were in the same boat as, let's say, Nintendo or Sony, I don't know. I mean, like I said, Phil Spencer, he genuinely seems like a very nice guy. He might feel that way, but I don't know if he would be going out saying it, in front of an interviewer. When you're winning, you're not worried about the white noise. You're concentrating on continuing to win. You have your goals focused in your sights, and that's what you're going for. You're not listening to the outside noise. And right now, Nintendo and Sony are locked in. They have no problems. Microsoft is in third place. And right now, with the PlayStation 5 selling the way that it is, it's some outlets, and of course, I wouldn't believe them 100%, but the way it's selling, 13,000 of these units were already bought up by these scammers and schemers, but that's still 13,000 consoles that have been bought, plus whatever else they've moved. They have been saying that the PlayStation is starting to already get up to a 2-1 lead on the Series X/S already. And we're not even a month out of the generation starting. And it's like this. I said that if we thought it was bad last generation, this time it's going to be worse because Microsoft has yet to prove themselves as a real competitor when it comes to Sony. They have not had the games. They have not had the success when it comes to their first-party games like Sony has. And with them having their exclusives be available on PC day and date, xCloud day and date, they are taking less and less and less of an incentive away to get their console. So I understand what Phil Spencer is saying, but I say, man, ain't nobody trying to hear that. That is part of the game, brother. That is how the game goes. This console war stuff has been around since the beginning. Since the beginning of gaming. We're talking about ColecoVision and Atari and television and Atari. This stuff is ingrained, man. And it's in every industry. You got iPhone versus Android. This is nothing new. So if this is something that's going to have you leave the industry, come on, Phil. You know what it was, brother, when you signed up for this. This comes with the territory. So I don't feel bad. I love the console war. I absolutely love it. Because it's competition. Once again, I don't want to see anybody fail, but I want the competition. It gets boring if it's just one company that's leading everybody around and nobody is actually competing with that company. It's bad. It's horrible for the gaming industry to have somebody, or have a company, I should say, that's doing that. So yes, I want the competition, and just hunker down, Phil. You wouldn't be going through this if your teams had some games coming out. That's all you got to worry about. That is the remedy to the solution. That's the remedy to the problem. Did I say that right? Y'all know what I'm saying. God dog, bear with me, man. Shoot. That's the answer. How about I say that? That's the answer to the problem. Games. That's all you got to do. Bring out the games. Now, Phil could be playing it this way talking about Sony and Nintendo aren't their competition because he wants Game Pass on their platforms. That could be possible too. If you do that, Phil, it's over. It is OVER. If you put Game Pass on the PlayStation brand or the Nintendo, you may as well kick rocks with flip-flops and get out the industry. Because that is just not going to do well for you. Anyway, that is the end of the gaming news this week. God dog, Phil. I like Phil Spencer, but man, he is really making it hard. Gee whiz. Just do the games, Phil. That's all you got to work on. Close the deal with Bethesda. Make them exclusive even if it's for a year. Timed exclusivity. Just make sure that you're giving us incentive to buy the Xbox. I'm telling y'all, this is the first time since the 360 had come out that I would have bought a PlayStation 5 or considered, not a 5, but considered buying a PlayStation before I bought an Xbox. I mean, the 360 generation, I wanted the Xbox first. Well, PlayStation wasn't out during that time, to be fair, but I would have wanted the Xbox first because I was such a fan of the original. And then when the Xbox One came out, it was no doubt I was getting the Xbox first before the PlayStation 4. But now, God dog, I just don't like this new direction that Xbox is going in. Man, it really gives me a lot of pause, man. Like, golly, what is going on, Phil? Just make the games happen, brother. Make them happen. But anyway, that leads us into the final section of the podcast where I ask you guys a question and look forward to hearing you guys retort. But the question for this week is, and I know you saw it, we're going to go over it officially. Did Sony underpromise and overdeliver on PlayStation 5? I got to say, man, a resounding yes. I mean, because you guys remember, and I don't have the PS5, so I've been talking to AB and I've talked to Vaughn. You know, you guys have heard the interview by now, but AB, he was telling me that you don't even need the PlayStation 4 controller for some of these PlayStation 4 games. He hasn't had to put his PlayStation 4 controller, hasn't had to hook it up to his PlayStation 5 to play any of the older games that he's been playing. And I believe he played Ghost of Tsushima, and he's played Uncharted 4, and The Last of Us Part 2. He's played those, and he's never told me he's had to unplug his PlayStation 5 controller and hook up his PS4 controller. And that was such a big deal. People were wondering, why, Sony? Why do you have to do that? What's going on with that? Why? And then you take that, and then we find out that backwards compatibility is running amazingly well on the PlayStation 5. They never put an emphasis on it. They said the best 100 games at first, and that was all they were doing. But when Digital Foundry did that backwards compatible test, man, I couldn't have been the only one in the stands like, wow, that was completely unexpected. I mean, they have told the mark with the backwards compatibility. Now, interestingly enough, just as a side note, it's an app out right now. You might want to jump on it for you guys that own the Series X or, well, I'm going to say the Series X. I don't know about the S, but it's an app where people are actually playing PlayStation 2 games on the Xbox Series X, and it's actually running amazingly well. So I don't know. You guys might want to jump on that if you want to check that out for yourself. But anyway, back to the question. And then after the backwards compatibility thing, then we see games are running better on the PlayStation 5 in some instances, at least, even if it's for right now, because it can change. These developers, they get their footing on what it takes on the Xbox Series X once they figure it out. I mean, it could possibly overtake the PlayStation 5, and the Series X could be dusting it eventually. But for right now, we can only speak for this moment. It looks like, no, it's not looking like it. It's actually been beating the Xbox Series X in some games when it comes to performance. So I would have to say just those three aspects of it make me say that, yes, I think Sony, they underpromised and they over-delivered. I think so. But I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to tell me whether you agree or disagree. And you can do that two different ways. Either you can call in at 443-216-9934 and let your voice be heard, or you can email the show, and the email address is the Analog Circle Podcast at gmail.com. I was your host, Kiaun Mitchell, and after this week, next week, starting on Sunday, we will be back to our regularly schedule of a program. Anyway, I'm out of here, and I want to thank you guys again for tuning in, spending some time with me, going over this gaming culture. It really, really means a lot, but I think I've been long-winded enough. So with that being said, before we officially get out of here, always remember, it is not about the consoles. It is about the games. So until next time when we do it again, you guys take care. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.